Figure it out.
Hello, this is Adam Koralik from Figured Out Productions. The following video is a video of some kind, and I hope you enjoy it.
Hey guys, it's Adam here, and if you're watching this the day it came out, it is the 7th birthday of our friend, the PlayStation 4. Now, if you're not new to this channel, then I'm sure you're very aware of this, but if you are, every single year since the 3 consoles you see in front of you have come out, I did a video on the day they came out. I did unboxings, I talked about the launch, and I talked about what I thought of them, reviews, and then every single year after, on their birthday, on November 15th, 19th, and 22nd. Granted, this is the Model S, not the base original launch model, but you get the point, it's an Xbox One. Every single year, I would simply sit down, we'd have a chat, and we would talk about what the last calendar year of the console had been like. Some of the games that came out, some of the policies that the corporate overlord made, some changes, some things I would be excited for, features, things I wanted to see, and where I generally thought things might be going. But it's been successful. People really like it to the point where it's like the one thing every year where I get tons of messages, people being like, you're going to do it again, right? You're going to do it again. Like, there's nothing else is like that on this channel. It's just the anniversaries of consoles. And I genuinely appreciate that so many people are so invested and interested in doing that. And of course, I want to keep up with that tradition. But with that tradition comes certain realities, certain inevitabilities. And last year, I predicted as such that the 2019 was going to have been the last year of market relevance of these consoles, or at least what I should say is the market focus. In other words, from the birthday of 2018 to the birthday of 2019, that calendar year, was the last time where Sony's primary focus was the PlayStation 4. That same time frame was the last focus for Microsoft on the Xbox One. Now, granted, the Wii U ended much earlier than that, but unfortunately, that's kind of the canary in the coal mine, which is to say that I last year basically said, now that that time frame is over, what we have to look forward to in 2020, other than a horrible pandemic, which of course none of us knew about, but what we had to look forward to as far as the consoles go was that they were no longer going to be the focus of Sony and Microsoft. The focus was going to become the PlayStation 5 and what would be called the Xbox Series X, although I don't think we knew the name at that time. That was going to be the goal. So what I said was you were basically going to get one more year of new games for sure, and probably the last batch of exciting exclusive experiences intended for the PlayStation 4 or intended for the Xbox One. But there would probably be a very minimal amount of changes or announcements for those particular consoles, and probably not a whole lot more announced to be excited for on those particular consoles, because they will essentially be geriatric at that point, and they are. And essentially, I was right. That's where we are now. It is the 7th birthday of the PlayStation 4, and now its successor, the PlayStation 5, exists. It's out. This is actually now a retro console. And the same goes for this. The Xbox One is now a retro console by that definition. Its successor exists. The Xbox Series X is out. And so this video, while we are going to talk about what has happened over the last year, is not so much a celebration of its last year as it is so much kind of, I hate to say it, but kind of a funeral or even a eulogy for the 7th generation, or the 8th generation, sorry. It's essentially, that's what this is. Because the 9th gen exists now. People have it now. People are embracing it now. And that's where we're going. This is obviously not something we couldn't predict. I said this literally a year ago, but it is just where we're going. And I know what you're probably thinking. Like, this is like this is going to be the recap video for the whole generation. No, that's not what we're doing. I'm giving you the proper send-off to what they had this year. And eventually, in time, we will do that. I promise you I will do videos on each console in the generation, look at the whole generation as a whole, all that stuff. That's not what this is. We are going to talk about what happened in this last year and my predictions for the future. Now, the thing is, the other thing I usually talk about is like suggestions for them, for Sony and Microsoft to make, but at this point in the game, they're not really going to make any changes with these consoles. I mean, they'll do minor security updates and things like that, but like major overhauls, that time is over. And the sad reality is there's so little to say on any of them as individuals that I had to group them all together in essentially one video. I didn't like doing that. I didn't want to do that. It's kind of but you kind of have to do it. Because while this is out, I mean, I don't do the Wii U videos anymore for that reason. There's not enough to say. Here's the only thing worth saying about the Wii U this year. It got its last 3 games ever. 2 of which were by a buddy of mine named Phil, who runs a company called Josh Prod. They did 2 indie physical games for this that were officially licensed. I even did videos on them. And then the last one ever was a game called Shakedown Hawaii, which at the time I'm recording this came out only a few months ago. But it is done. Those were flukes because they had been established to Nintendo before the end of 2019, as was some rule they had. So that's it. The Wii U's done. And while these consoles are not done, they are getting to that territory, and I just want to prepare everybody for that. Now, when it comes to the last year as far as exciting experiences, I have to say by far the winner would be Sony on that one. You know, they were the only ones that really said, like, yes, the PlayStation 4 is still relevant. It's not our primary focus, but it's still relevant, and here's some things we're going to give you. And really, to that effect, to that end, they had 4 major games, to my mind, and one, ironically, I almost forgot. The one I think that would probably come to mind for most people, like, immediately would be Final Fantasy VII Remake, which was a game that had been, wished upon for years, announced and then delayed, and just, you all know what it is. And it came out, and people seemed to be very genuinely happy about that. That was a major, exclusive, exciting release, at least as far as consoles go, for the PlayStation 4. It also ended up having Ghost of Tsushima, which was a very widely received, very popular game that people really embraced. It had Last of Us Part 2, which was very anticipated, and then apparently it was a huge letdown. But, it is what it is. And then the ironic one that I almost forgot was Shenmue 3. I don't know what you're thinking. You're like, Shenmue 3 came out in 2019. It did. But it came out within the last calendar year, which has always been the point. The PlayStation 4 last year, its birthday was, of course, November 15th, 2019. Shenmue 3 dropped November 19th, the same day as the Wii U birthday, actually, as 2019, so 4 days after. And so it's like, oh yeah, right, technically it qualifies within this video. And that was a huge deal to me. It was a major exclusive title, at least console-wise, again, for the PlayStation 4 that an install base was behind. But the truth is, outside of those games, there really wasn't much to drive traffic to the PlayStation 4 specifically. And that's not to say there weren't other big games on there. It's just that they were like multi-plats, particular cross-platform. And, honestly, as I keep saying, like, all the announcements are for PlayStation 5 games. And I know what you're thinking, like, well, wait a minute, like, Cyberpunk's still coming out, and, the new Assassin's Creed and Far Cry 6 and all that stuff, and even other exclusive stuff, like, for Sony, I know there's more Spider-Man stuff coming, whatever. Yes, but they're all made for PlayStation 5 and made for Xbox Series X. This is not an uncommon trend in video game history. It's when the consoles are transitioning, they do tend to still give you games for the old ones. It's just they're watered down. And then over time, it erodes and erodes and erodes, and you get less and less of them. And that will happen, but we'll get back to that in a second. So I got to say, Sony definitely offered you the best year between these two. Well, I guess all three, because technically the Wii U had games. So it had the most exciting year as far as that. On the flip side of that, though, Microsoft essentially offered nothing as far as the Xbox One itself, as far as exclusive releases and exciting things. They did a better job, I think, of using their legacy to enhance their next generation, which was something I said that they should all do, mostly in the form of backwards compatibility and easy migration of your accounts and all that sort of stuff. Microsoft has made that kind of a drop, a seamless plug-and-play, drop-in experience. You use the same Xbox Live data to just bounce in, and all of your stuff is transferable. It's fully compatible with the Xbox One library. I'm talking about the Series X now. It is fully compatible with the Xbox One library, sans the Kinect games. The 360 games are already made compatible work. The original Xbox games are already made compatible work. And it sounds like the intent is to make more of them compatible. But you see the problem here. We're already talking about the next gen because there's not much to say on these. The only notable thing, and it's sad, that Microsoft did with the Xbox One this entire calendar year, other than a couple of firmware updates and so on and so forth, little minor features, they discontinued it. And that's a story that kind of went under the radar. They had long since disconnected the base model. They had long since disconnected or discontinued the S model, which is this one. And this year they discontinued the X, the Xbox One X. They don't make it anymore. This is not a current gen platform anymore. They literally don't make it. It's over. And it's, I mean, PlayStation 4, they're still making, the pros at least. So that'll go on for a while longer. But all right, so you're probably thinking like, oh, it's just my PlayStation 4 is just junk now. It doesn't work. There's no more games. No. But we are getting to that point. And I'm just mentally preparing it for you because next year, here's my prediction. You'll still get some big games. As I said, you'll still get your Far Cry 6s and whatever. But they'll be the watered down versions. There might be in a couple of indie exclusive games here and there. In fact, there'll probably be a lot of those. But that's kind of it. All eyes are now on the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. And so I hate to say it, but this is the last year of doing birthdays for these particular consoles because there's just nothing else to say about it. At least until we look back on it with some distance and say, here's how it all played out from a historical perspective that makes it exciting. But in this next year, in 2021 and beyond, here's my final predictions for these particular consoles. The Wii U is done. It's over. It's served well. We loved it, and it was nice to see it at least get a couple more games this year. The Xbox One, as I said, is probably going to be the next to go because Microsoft, I believe, will support this digitally for a very long time. As in, you can connect it, you can keep playing online, you can check out whatever they've got available on there. They'll keep making new games for quite some time. You'll have the support of backwards compatibility, all that fun stuff will be there for a long time. I mean, to this day, much to my surprise, they have not shut down the Xbox 360 servers. So the Xbox One servers are not going anywhere anytime soon. Inevitably, they will at some point. It's just, who knows when. At some point, that will happen. But the thing that will kill this console faster than this one is one of the huge advantages that this console has always had. In my opinion, the Xbox One will probably see its last games by like 2023. And by that point, you're probably talking almost exclusively sports titles. This is not uncommon. This is what always happens, throughout console history. When the next gens drop, you get the ones that were still in development, then you get multiplats, and then you get less of them, and then you just kind of get around to like Skylanders and sports titles. We don't even have Skylanders anymore, so you'll just end up with sports titles. That's how it goes. It's normal. Maybe Just Dance, but that's it. That's what you end up with. But the PS4 has this huge advantage, which is that Sony and Nintendo, frankly, although the Nintendo not so much with this console, Sony really embraced third-party physical limited run editions. And what that means is you're very familiar with companies like Limited Run Games and Super Rare Games and all these other guys who make like small batches of stuff. The reason you never see Xbox One versions of those kinds of games is that Microsoft doesn't allow it. It's not because they don't want to make games for the Xbox One. Microsoft simply won't let them. They say that the minimum order has to be, I think it's like 10,000 units, and they try to do batches of like 2,000, 3,000, 5,000. They're not willing to do 10,000 of something that is frankly that limited. So Microsoft doesn't let them do it. And I think that's what will keep the PS4 around for a lot longer, especially because other markets too, like in Europe in particular, I actually think here that you'll probably see your last PS4 games maybe like 2025. But I could see in Europe it going on into the 2030s. Like, no joke. I mean, over there especially, like, it's just a thing. They've always been so much better, and particularly with the PlayStation 2, about just keeping physical edition consoles alive as publication fees come down and all that sort of stuff. But with Sony being willing to embrace physical indies, it can go for as long as Sony allows it. I think there will always be demand for new PlayStation 4 games. But it's up to eventually Sony does have to pull that plug on basically the disc pressers and their verification process. That comes down to them. That's what Nintendo did last year, right at the end, when they said you have to have all Wii U games submitted by the end of 2019. They did it. It's done. That's why you don't see anymore. We know Microsoft will do that as soon as they get the chance. I'm thinking that chance comes 2023. Sony, like I said, is much better at hanging on to that type of stuff. So I see that happening. Again, depending on regions, because it is different departments do different things. but I'm guessing overall picture sometime in the 2030s, which is a stark difference. But we're not talking about like AAA major games you're getting in 10 years from now. We're talking about like just some physical indies, and that's about it. Sports titles, that kind of stuff. And I'm sad to say that that's pretty much it, though. There's really not much else to say about what happened in the last year with these consoles, because that's kind of the point. We're at that wrap-up phase, and we have to all just look forward to the future. And that future will eventually include doing the nice full-on retrospectives of each console and talking about them that way. But right now is not so much a time to celebrate them. Now is more of a time to mourn them, but to look on to the future for the next generation of consoles. So I don't mean to go on a sour note like that, but it's just kind of what it is. So yeah, I'd love to. What else can I say that would like kind of spice it up? At least their libraries, for the most part, will be compatible in the next generation, so it's not like they're just done. And it's not like your consoles will just stop working. It's just that we're just at that time. It's just time to move on, move forward. And I want to thank them for all the wonderful experiences they've given me and will continue to give me. I'm not delusional to that reality. And I'm sure you would as well. So if you guys, want to, pay your respects in the chat, by all means. Anyway, thank you guys very much for watching and demanding this series. As I said, we're just acknowledging it now. Happy birthday, you're 7. Happy birthday. In a couple of days, you will be 8. And in a couple of days after that, you will be 7. But there will be no additional video on those just because we just did it. We just did it, man. And maybe that's like the perfect theme. It's like, there's no reason to keep doing it. We did it. We had our fun, and now it's time to move on. So, there you go. Thank you very much for watching. Please check the description to hit up the hit up all the social media stuff, Instagram, Facebook, Patreon, what have you, as well as like, comment, and subscribe on this particular video. I appreciate that as well. Thank you so much, and I'll see you all later.